Welcome in everybody to the ImprobaBULLS. Cody Grant here with Sean Conley. Sean, how's it going tonight?
It is going very well and very dark.
It is
in
dark.
The studio.
We're here at the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, and the studio's lights will not work. But in honor of Halloween, Sean and I decided to go with it.
With it and with a cell phone light.
Sean's got a cell phone light going. Let's get right into it. ImprobaBULLS, all about Bulls talk and nothing but Bulls talk. So against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sean, on Tuesday, opening night, the Bulls were able to win 97-95. Cleveland, obviously without Kyrie Irving, but the Bulls with a lot of question marks coming in with the new head coach. They got the win, and the play of the game, really, Pau Gasol's block on LeBron James at the end of the game.
Yes, absolutely. Some people were saying also that LeBron having back issues played a role also with maybe he didn't get as much elevation, throwing the layup or whatever he was going for there above Pau's, reach there. So that might have helped Pau get the block there too.
Definitely, because I think, look at the verticals between the two players. There's no way Pau is going to jump higher than LeBron. And I'm glad you brought up the back issue because you saw it all game. After every time LeBron played 36 minutes in that game, but when he came off the floor, he was laying down by the bench on his back and trying to rejuvenate himself to get back out there. So that's something that the Cavs and everybody else, because LeBron is the best player in the league, are going to look at the entire season. Now, there's no such thing as a must-win game in October, but I bet you this game meant a lot to the Bulls. LeBron has knocked them out of the playoffs 4 out of the last 6 years.
Absolutely, and being on the national stage, they were on what I think was TNT, right? So
yeah, and it was the first game of the season for the NBA.
Right, and the president was in the town.
Barack Obama was there
in the building. Yeah, so they had a little bit of a spotlight on him.
Big game from Nikola Mirotic. I mean, in that game, he led the Bulls. I know he came out in the first quarter with 11 points. He finished with 19. He was a +9 in the plus or minus. That was he was tied with Anderson Varejao, actually, of Cleveland, who only played 11 minutes. That's something we'll get to in a little bit, is the bench of the Bulls. But still, they came out and they took care of business, first game of the year, and got Fred that first win.
Yeah. It's interesting now that Mirotic is coming out of the starting lineup and not off the bench. He was always a big spark, regardless where he came from. But I don't know if maybe being put on the main roster might have anything to do with being with Gasol over the summer there too. Maybe some chemistry was evolved there.
I definitely agree with you on that, Sean, and that's something we're going to touch on huge in just a little bit here. Looking last night, Sean, against Brooklyn, the Bulls took care of business there. They won that game 115-100. Now, they had a 16-point lead early. They blew that. And then they had another big lead. I can't remember the exact. I think it was 13, and they ended up blowing that lead. And it was really the bench that blew it for them. I mean, really quick here, Sean, before I turn it to you, plus minus the starters: Tony Snell 25, Nikola Mirotic 30, Pau Gasol 23, Jimmy Butler 23, Derrick Rose 18. They put that bench in.
Yeah,
Etuan put more, minus 15. Taj Gibson was minus 15. Doug McDermott minus 14. Joakim Noah minus 8, and Kirk Hinrich minus 7.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a dichotomy there. I don't know what. Maybe it's just the combination of people that he has to figure out or something. But yeah, I mean, Butler usually is kind of like our Dang. He's always been consistent with starters and bench guys. Maybe throw him in there more and keep guys in check or something, because that's clearly not going to be working out throughout the season. Yeah.
Now, one thing, though, to look at just historically of the benches the Bulls have had, even I understand, is a new coach. So the offense is a lot different, which we're touched on a little bit. But Tom Thibodeau, when he had his first year there, he had the bench mob, with C.J. Watson and Kyle Korver and Taj Gibson, Omer Sheik, and all those guys. Mm-hmm. Ronnie Brewer too was on those teams.
Yeah.
It took them a while to get accustomed to each other, so it's not something to really be too worried about. It's only the second game of the season, but it's still like, come on, Ben. Like I used to know the starters were like, oh, we gotta go back out there now.
Yeah,
we gave them this huge lead. They couldn't hold it. Come on, guys.
I mean, and then they still have yet to probably figure out exactly each identity, other than the starters, what role each bench guy might be playing, down the line. So each guy on that bench mob, you knew what he was going to bring, what they were going to do. Maybe they're not quite sure what each guy's going to do yet.
Yeah, definitely. And in that game, though, I was really impressed with Derrick Rose. He finished with 15 points. He had 3 assists, and he was 5-11 from the field. He only took 1 3-pointer. It was a miss. And he was 5 of 5 from the free throw line. So he's getting into the paint. He's looking like the old Derrick Rose, but not as reckless.
Right.
He's very controlled with his movements, and he knows when to pass, when to let Butler take it, and he understands that he's not a shooter and he has to change his game. And so far, in his first 2 games, he's done that.
Yeah, and I saw in an interview he actually said that he's starting to feel like his old self, considering the fact that he's basically playing with kind of one eye open, so to speak. So it's good to see that he's aggressive but still cautious at the same time.
Definitely, and Pau Gasol finally got going after scoring just 2 points on 1 of 7 shooting in that Cleveland game. He came out to play against Brooklyn, finishing with 16 points. He also had 9 boards. He was 2 of 2 from the line. He had 3 assists, only 2 fouls, and 30 minutes of play. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on too, Sean, is the minutes of these starters are going down under Fred Hoiberg.
Right. Yeah, I mean, no one's being overworked. It's still early to be called anyone overworked yet, but I mean...
yeah, 2 games in.
Yeah.
But we're excited.
It's being managed better in terms of time, and maybe that's even where some of the disparity of the bench and the starters might be coming into play too, is how much time they play.
So let me ask you a question, Sean, before we get into some of the topics we touched on a little bit. Through the first 2 games, what is your biggest surprise of all the Bulls players? Who's played so well? Really, just surprised, though, that you didn't really see it coming this well.
I've always had the confidence in McDermott when he was drafted. I thought he was going to be a solid guy. Kind of reminded me of Korver, the solid 3-point guy coming off the screens and all that. It's really cool to see his confidence that he's been able to build since really training camp, spring training. Baseball's still on my mind, I guess. But since training camp, and even just he had the winning shot, and granted a pregame, but he had the winning shot in a game. So I think that's really big, and that was cool to see. Yeah,
Doug McDermott, he played 16 minutes in that Cleveland game. He was 3 for 4 from the field. He was 1 of 2 from 3-point range. He finished with 8 points. And then last night against Brooklyn, he played 20 minutes. He was 3 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3-point range, and he finished with 8 points again. My biggest surprise, I know it's not a huge surprise, but it's Nikola Mirotic. How well he's meshed already with the starting lineup, kind of taking over. I mean, that's what he did in the Cleveland game, and right at the start, he had 11 points in that first quarter, and he finished strong in the fourth. He had 19 points. He also finished with 9 rebounds, and he did a pretty good job on Tristan Thompson, too, getting those boards. And then last night against Brooklyn, Nico finished with 18 points on 5 of 10 shooting, 4 of 8 from the 3-point arc, and 4 of 4 from the free throw line. And again, Sean, 9 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, watching Mirotic it's a thrill to watch. He shoots the 3 almost maybe not the same form, but watching him feels like Ray Allen. It's just an easy flow. You expect it to go in almost every time, and it was really it was hard to wait for him. Overseas when we drafted him, but he was worth the wait, obviously. Yeah,
the Bulls drafted him in, I'm trying to remember the year, it was like 2012 or so.
Yeah.
With a 23rd pick overall, and he came over, he still was under contract over in Spain, and I'm really glad, I just dropped my phone. I'm really glad he came over, though, because he's going to be a big-time player for this Bulls squad.
Absolutely. He's a building block.
Definitely. And you talk about the shot, and it's funny you mentioned, Ray Allen, and I completely agree with you because it's so smooth, but it's just funny. I mean, Nikola Mirotic is a 6'11" power forward.
Yeah.
but he fits perfect with this Bulls team because you talk about the history of not just the Bulls, but the history of the NBA. Power forward position has always been that 6'9", 6'10", huge muscle, big time banger in the post, rebounder. And not saying that Nico can't rebound, but he's definitely not a big time banger in the post. The game has changed so much to that stretch four, which almost every team now in the league is trying to utilize, and the Bulls have a pretty good stretch four in Nikola Mirotic.
Absolutely, and it makes it tougher for defenses to guard a guy that can be solid in both the post and out on the three-point line. And the game like that, you've seen it more in college. You see big guys doing that, but then they can't quite bring it to the NBA. I don't know if it's conditioning or their build or something, but when guys do bring that into the NBA, that kind of game, it just makes it so much harder to guard those guys.
I'm glad you bring that up too, because let's talk about Fred Hoiberg's system offensively and why it does make defenses starting to have trouble guarding the Bulls. I know it's only been 2 games, but we see in preseason the kind of the start of this new offensive flow, and to have a guy like Nikola Mirotic as a stretch four, he just fits so perfect with Fred Hoiberg's offense. The way you've always seen a difference. I mean, it's amazing how much of a difference. And I'm not just talking about stats or scoring. They put up 115 against Brooklyn the other night, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the spacing on the floor and getting those open shots. I mean, this is an exciting offense that Fred Hoiberg has brought from Iowa State to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw, I think, a post-game with Tim Legler was pointing out some new plays that Hoiberg is bringing different, screens and things that Thibodeau really didn't do. So when you do that, based on the defense, they had an alley-oop with Jimmy Butler because of one of the plays that he pointed out, and then the same play they did, a couple different people were involved, but they did the same play. Cleveland remembered that, played it differently, but then they left a different guy open in Taj Gibson, and he sank a 2-point right around the free throw line. So, different plays that he brings are changing the way people are expecting us to play, and it's tougher to guard us.
And I think another thing, too, that helps out Fred Hoiberg's offense, obviously, is the personnel. You're not going to win games in the NBA if you don't have talent.
Yeah.
And the Bulls are certainly a team that has talent. But maybe, Sean, in the past, under Tom Thibodeau, even though I think you agree with me here, and I think other Chicago Bulls fans will agree with me, I loved having Tom Thibodeau. I thought he was a phenomenal coach. But at the same time, after seeing Fred Hoiberg just in this short time, maybe Tom didn't utilize these guys, at least on offense, the correct way.
Right, I agree. It's tougher. It's kind of like a teacher. You react to him a different way. He ends every game with a hoarse voice because he's obviously screaming the entire time, and then you see Hoiberg, calm, cool, and collected for the most part. And I don't know if cerebral is the right word, but he seems more kind of like a Steve Kerr, just like a 3-point shooter guy who is kind of on a different wavelength, and people respond a little bit differently to the guys like that, I think.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, Steve Kerr. And if I could make another comparison here, Mark Jackson, who coached Golden State before Steve Kerr came in, was a little bit like that Tom Thibodeau type, old school, play hard, play tough defense, and just hound these guys. And I don't want to say that defense isn't important, because Golden State, though they were number 1 offense last year, they were also number 1 defense. So you definitely have to play the defense. So let's talk about the defense a little bit. We all know what Fred Hoiberg's offense is going to do, and with his personnel and the floor spacing has been phenomenal, and you have all these talented scorers. We talk about Pau Gasol, Nikola Mirotic, Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Tony Snell coming into his own, Doug McDermott off the bench. Sean, you mentioned him earlier. But let's talk about this defense now. It's totally different direction. No Joakim Noah in the starting lineup. You have Nikola Mirotic, who's really not a good defender, and already now this season they gave up 95 to Cleveland without Kyrie Irving, and they gave up 100 to Brooklyn, who has no more Darren Williams and no more Kevin Garnett, no more Paul Pierce from a few years ago. All they really got is Joe Johnson and Brook Lopez, and Jimmy did a pretty good job of shutting down Joe Johnson. But is this defense going to take a step back?
I would hope not. Right now, it is not looking very good, obviously, if they're giving up, between 95 and 100 points. But I think they're coming off of having a coach like Thibodeau, and so I think some of that might hopefully,